do not ever believe that the human experience is going to ever go away. The idea of AI can be scary if we want it to be. Everything's been AI generated, just the idea of this language model developing. I use it daily for efficiencies in work, creativities for work, finding out what I need to do for my own personal life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of EDU Unlocked with me, Ashish Fernando, your host for the day. And here we talk to inspiring leaders in education, K-12, higher ed, leaders who make a change, make a difference to not just themselves and their departments and their institution, but the world around them. They like to share their knowledge on everything from enrollment all the way to employment. And joining us today is one such really special guest, Shannon Penrose, who's the senior vice president and head of education solutions at the American College of Education. Shannon, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ashish. I'm very much looking forward to the time today.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of things involving equity in education and just how, you think K-12 is shaping up and where we're going towards the future of career with AI and all those kind of things. So there's a lot packed in here. So for our listeners, this is going to be a good one. I want to start with a little introduction to Shannon. Apart from, her role as senior vice president at the American College of Education, she also works with, well, as part of ACE, she works with a lot of K-12 school districts, and she's helped develop tailored credit-bearing learning programs, with a lot of her focus being on sustainable, high quality talent pipelines, especially like in terms of teaching, teachers and faculty. So we're going to talk to her about that. But before joining ACE, she was also managing partner at Learning Ally. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
All right, awesome. So Learning Ally was a company where she helped design and implement multi-year professional learning series focused on, again, reading instruction. And that was with, mainly your work was there with the LAUSD, right? The Los Angeles Unified School District, correct?
That is correct.
That's awesome. And I mean, this is just a wealth of experience. LAUSD is what, the first or the second largest school district?
They will probably go back and forth on that one, but I want to say they're a very high number two.
Yeah, they're very high number two. That's good. Yeah. I think Miami-Dade is also somewhere there. They're probably number one there, right? Yeah.
Yes, very close. New York Public Schools has technically traditionally been the top number, but you're very, very good in the numbers of population. They're explosive growth.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, awesome. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but why don't we start with this? What does equity, that word gets thrown around so much by everybody, and everybody has a different definition of what equity and access means to them. For you at the ground level, for a student or a parent or family that's like, what's equity for you?
I love this question. I can go all day. And when we think about it, you've got the word equity and you had access. I'm going to add another word, opportunity, to it. But if we were to just kind of look at it in a very ground level term, if you were to put a series of children up and they want to go watch a soccer game and there's a fence, you've got a tall child that's a little shorter, and a child that's really short and can't even see over. Well, they all have the access to the game. They all have the opportunity to the game, but is it an equitable viewpoint to watch the game? So we've got to make sure that we're putting in a structure for the child who needs to be able to creep up and look at that fence. Maybe we need to put some building blocks up for that child to look at. It's the idea that there's equity, but is it equitable? Does everyone have the same types of opportunities, regardless of where he or she wakes up, regardless of where their home life is that it goes into public education is free and appropriate, but yet we need to make sure we're spending a lot of time thinking about equity, equitable provisions to all children, giving that richness of learning.
That's amazing. And it begs the question of every child is different, right? And it's impossible to have a one-to-one ratio of administrators, school staff, teachers, right? And so how do you then, let's say you have a class of 50 students, some learn fast, some learn slow, some come from well-off families, some come from really poor families. How can do you think it's feasible for us to look at it on an individual student basis? Should we be looking at it that way, or we should be thinking of like, grouping students? Like how would you approach that from an individual student standpoint?
There's going to be some schools of thought and different theories and opportunities there. From the holistic standpoint, you have to look at the whole child. Every coming in with his or her unique differences. Every classroom is going to have, depending on the number of students that are in that class, everyone is going to have his or her unique opportunities. Do we have opportunities to provide personalized instruction for all? We do. Those opportunities are there. It's a matter of upskilling, training, supporting our educators and administrators to be able to identify, to have those, what we would call good first teaching instruction taking place. So if you have a child who is gifted and talented in mathematics, they should have the opportunity to really excel in his or her growth trajectory. So that means that educators are equipped in understanding how to differentiate that. We provide that. If there is a child that's in that same class that has a learning difference, that may be gifted mathematically, but is needing a little bit more extra support to scaffold that instruction, the educator should have the skill set and the mindset, and it's our responsibility to equip those individuals to make sure that that's taken place. So we're moving into a trajectory of education where I've been around, I guess, long enough to see the pendulum go back and forth. But there is a constant that every child can have his or her own opportunity for learning. And it's our responsibility to make sure that that pathway is in existence for them.
Fabulous, fabulous, Shannon. Appreciate that response. And I want to ask this question of what happened in your personal trajectory, your personal path that got you to think about equity and access and opportunity. Thanks for adding that word. It's very important. What brings you to this point in your life to be thinking so deeply about it?
It's funny. I was thinking about that today. I have a fairness trigger.
A fairness trigger?
Yeah,
Okay, tell us about it.
And so I'm the middle child, just incredibly brilliant brainiac older brother. And I had to follow him throughout school. And I took learning not as seriously as my older brother did. It was, we were very blessed in how we were brought up, but yet I did not connect. And I actually have a math learning disability growing up, and it was not recognized till I was older. And so I was the kid that just mathematics did not connect with me. I could not figure this out, and it was just a completely different foreign language. And I was the one that would just not pass any exams, even though I tried. I couldn't get it. And my brother just, and teachers were expecting, oh, we're expecting the same things out of you. I'm like, sure. Everybody else
went to the same school. He was just a couple of grades ahead.
Just 1 year ahead of me, and everybody's expecting. So he set the tone for what the expectation was, and that wasn't fair. And I was not looked at individually for myself, even though I tried. I was the one, well, just give her more flashcards, give her more flashcards, she'll figure it out. That was not what I needed. And so it wasn't until my sophomore year in high school when I was a repeat visitor in geometry
Hmm.
that and I wanted to get my driver's license. And this one teacher was my sign off on getting that permit. And he
Yeah.
looked at me and he said, I can't just sign this. You have to pass my class. I broke down. I
Yeah.
broke down and I just, I started crying like, well, I'm never going to be able to drive. I'm never going to be able to do this because I don't get it. And Mr. Hole, I will never forget this, said, you do not understand this, do you? And I said, I don't understand anything you're putting in front of me. And it was Mr. Hole who took the time during lunch after school, and I'll never forget this to this day, to give
Hmm.
me the structure and understanding so mathematics clicked with me. And when I began my career, I wasn't going to be a teacher. I was going to be an attorney. And I took an internship at a Head Start facility where I was looking at children who could not put a pencil in their hand, did not know how to write their name, and they were old enough to be in school. That it was that fairness trigger came back up again. And I said, you need to be able to give this opportunity. And so that's where my career in education started. So as an educator, and then when I became an administrator, I was always looking at how do we make sure and recognize that every single child that walks through our school, walks through our classrooms, is not having what I was subjected to or anyone else. And it's just, and I think it just sticks with me through I think it's a daily mantra.
I love it. I mean, there's such a story there, but you kept going on with it in terms of like just not losing hope, and that's what got you to
Yeah.
be at such a tremendous position at ACE. That's amazing.
Well, it's interesting though, because I think my family still kind of laughs a bit because I went into numeracy when I went into more of my graduate work. And because I wanted to make sure that I imparted, when we educate children, they need to understand not only the language of literacy and understanding because the brain is a pattern detective. How do we make sure that children recognize the patterns of a language versus the patterns of the mathematical language?
Yeah.
To the point of when I published Focus Mathematics Intervention about 10 years ago, it was designed to give educators the opportunity of connecting those dots for students. It is attainable. We just have to think about it through the lens of how the child is going to receive the information.
Totally. Yeah. And it resonates with me also, Shannon. I mean, in high school, I don't know, my mom says it wasn't the fact that, you were not a good student. It was just that you were not interested in learning. Because in school, till my undergrad, I wasn't actually interested in learning. I was more interested in music. I wanted to be a bass guitarist. Like you'll see all the guitars. And, as an Indian kid, you don't get to be a bass guitarist. Forget about everything. You can either be an engineer or a doctor, or you're a failure. Three options. Yeah, but in my grad school, something clicked, and I don't know what clicked, but I was doing my biotechnology, and in my master's degree, I got the gold medal at the university. I was basically top of everything. And it really got me thinking. And that's why, I spend a lot of my time in education, helping students, helping institutions. My grandfather started schools in India, and I went there, my parents, my siblings, everybody went there. So I totally get it. And there's so much impact of those times on us today, like decades later. Like you still remember the person, you remember that experience. Me
Yeah.
too. Very important. Uh, but that's amazing. You mentioned your older brother. What about your other sibling? Where's your other sibling in all of this?
He is 5 years younger, so he didn't get the brunt of the pieces. But
Oh, yeah,
again, another brilliant, brilliant mind who just, the math bug
yeah.
completely clicked in. And so the three of us growing up, it was we were brought up in a suburban Los Angeles neighborhood. You go to school and you go to college, but yet that was the track, and
Hmm.
that's all you knew. And but you touched on something very interesting about culture, and we have to think about, you have this when you're brought up into a family environment where, from a culture perspective, your destiny is already designed for you the day that you're born.
True.
And when you want to break out of that mold, it makes it very unique. We also have that trajectory within the school setting when you have multiple students or certain parts of geographic locations throughout the United States too. And I don't know if we're spending enough time recognizing that to give opportunity of access for students to move out of their neighborhoods too. Because I think from a cultural standpoint, it may be important for the family to keep the family together as a unit within the neighborhood, but are we giving them the opportunity to think beyond or go out but then come back? And we're seeing migrations and pockets of that throughout. But I often wonder how much culture plays into that too.
Hmm. I see my dog. You mentioned dogs coming in. Yeah, for me, especially, I mean, for me, culture's been a big part of it because you have the constant stress of not just being compared to your siblings and other people in class, but like your mother's friend's son and what he's doing. And yeah, so there's it's very the societal nature of things is just, yeah, it's very remarkable. I've been thinking about it a lot. Like I was very rebellious when I was younger, so I knew that my parents wanted me to be an engineer. So therefore, I said I'll do whatever, but not engineering. So so I went for traditional science. And here I am though somehow running a tech company, doing
Fantastic.
yeah, and like even with my MBA, when I came to the US 10 years ago, I came to the States, and I had a Yale admit, and my mom wanted me to go to Yale because that's what you want to tell in society. My son goes to Yale. I picked Bentley instead.
That's fantastic. Talk about an opposite. That's great.
Yeah, and I don't regret any bit of it, nothing. Because you said something very, very interesting, right? Because it's you added opportunity to it, and the way you look at opportunity is I see it not as where you study, but how you study and what you want to unlock for yourself. That opportunity is available. It's just about how you can get to it, right? In most cases, you need some help to get there. You need someone to tell you, like somebody to mentor you, that hey, there's opportunity, because it's your first time. You got out of grad school, first time you're in the world out there, you really don't know what to do. And for me, luckily, I had some mentors, who helped me and guided me through that. I learn a lot just on my own from things online, and learn to build my first website for my company and do all of that. But it's been really interesting working with students, and in some cases they need more help, some cases they need less help, and how do I balance it? That's why my first question was, how do you do it? Because I've not been able to figure it out, right? Want to help every student, but helping equals time, time equals money, right? You need people to support that. So yeah.
It's a very good, important question. And it's something that is very top of mind for me too, right? This as I'm waking up this morning. And kind of shifting a bit and talking about, American College of Education and the mission behind the college. And it in 2005 originated as a teachers college for teachers to allow them to have the opportunity to continue their education within the budget of being a teacher. So fast forward today, we're 11,000 in active body student population completely online, but we are still serving the education, but also business and also nursing communities now. And when you think about the student and the opportunities, and we could have a trajectory of students who can afford to go to college. Well, we're providing not only the affordability, but we're also providing the access and the flexibility to go as well. The bachelor's programs are $8,000. The master's programs are $9,500, and our doctoral programs are under $25,000. And we are HLC Higher Learning Commission accredited. And to me, when I think about that, I look at, well, let's think about who does not want to spend an enormous amount of money for education, but yet also doesn't want to go into debt. The college made the intentional decision at its founding to not take federal funding. So 85% of our students graduate debt-free. To me, that is allowing someone to not only get the opportunity for their education, but then to understand their earning power when they are out into the workforce. For every dollar spent on their education at ACE, they're able to get $19.26 back from a return of investment. So when we think about why promote this opportunity, I look at it as more of an economic piece, where if you are needing to get your bachelor's degree and you want to become a nurse, you want to become a teacher, you want to go into business, well, this $8,000 bachelor's degree is going to give you the golden ticket to get into another pathway of further, not just necessarily furthering education, but going into the workforce and having an even stronger source of income. And that hits a population in the United States that I think is very large. And if you think about students today not wanting to go to college because of how expensive it is, we're creating a very unique construct for that.
I love it. I love it. And in terms of, it's just low cost of education and the ROI of $19 to a dollar. That's amazing. That's amazing. What are you seeing in terms of success rate, in terms of employment rates after that type of education? Because I feel like it's been a stigma. I work with some, large online schools. Western Governors is an example.
Yes.
1,000 student enrollments a year. There's always the question of, oh yeah, but is an online degree worth the same as a traditional degree, right? And like for me, like the way I learn, I'm like, as long as I can exhibit the skills that an employer is seeking during my interview process, I should be able to at least get a chance for the first 3 months and then show how I work. But that doesn't seem to be the general sort of feeling about online education and things like that. What are your thoughts?
Prior to coming to ACE, it's a stigma. It very much is. But when you unpack the data, we did a study with Lightcast a year ago to talk about the return of investment of your education at ACE. And it comes from alumni data, employer data, student survey data. And the success rates that we have are absolutely outstanding. So when you're looking at the idea of providing an online education, the employability is there, and especially when we're getting our employer survey data back. We have multiple partnerships with corporations to provide credit for prior learning. So when an employer invests in ACE to provide learning for their employees, the employee satisfaction and retention increases as well. And so it becomes more of a symbiotic relationship. And we're in a place where the workforce has changed so much that I feel very strongly that our students want to have the flexibility of an online experience. The what I experienced going to college in a traditional brick and mortar, going into school, that was a time and place where it could. We now have technology advancing so quickly. The needs of everything are, we live off of our devices.
Mm.
The changing feel of what we are learning is happening from our devices. So why not make that switch, but yet the cost comes down dramatically as well, because you're not necessarily needing to have the cost of the brick and mortar where you can have a high quality education, but yet you're still able to have the balance of lifestyle that you want to have as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I mean, if online can be better, faster, cheaper, or inexpensive, right? Like, why not? Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can learn from anywhere. You can learn while you earn. There's so many different things you can do.
I like the learn and earn piece. A lot of a lot of the work that we're doing right now is within my division is working with school systems. So we will partner with a school district to build out paraprofessionals to become teachers who would like to maybe be a principal or possibly a superintendent. So all of our degree programs are stackable and they are designed with the intent to follow the career path of an educator. What warms my heart is being able to provide the opportunity for a paraprofessional to get a bachelor's degree to give that opportunity to become a teacher, because so often they don't think that the option's there for them,
Mm,
and it's and they may need to go through different means to get the high school diploma or go in and get the credits to get either the associates or the 60 semester credit offering. And then they come to ACE and we're able to really showcase a richness of experience that allows an individual to know that they have more earning potential.
amazing. I love it. Talking about earning potential, uh, what do you think is happening with all the new technology, AI, like the fear of AI replacing humans and education soon getting to a point where it's actually obsolete because now you have machines that can write code and that can build an entire piece of software, can paint, like it's crazy. So where do you, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you think we're heading?
It's funny. Somebody had asked me this question not too long ago, and the first thing I think of is when the 3D printers came out,
Yeah.
and this idea of putting in this through code and building something, and this 3D object comes out, to me was just this incredible experience. Well,
Yeah.
let's learn from that. I do not ever believe that the human experience is going to ever go away. The idea of AI can be scary if we want it to be. I find this to be the most valuable and probably one of the most amazing technological advancements of our time. Uh, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to empowerment, when it comes to allowing, I mean, students have been using AI for years now. It's been on their device. We just didn't say, oh, this is AI. Everything's been AI generated. Just the idea of this language model developing. Um, I use it daily for efficiencies in work, creativities for work, finding out what I need to do for my own personal life. I think from a district standpoint, looking at it from an institution, from a school serving students, we do need to have some form of guardrails up to figure out what the security implication could be, where some form of dangers could be, but we learn from it and we move on. But I think we're right now in this phase of how do we venture into this new phenomenon? But when it comes to replacing an educator, I actually think it's going to make the educator's job far richer and far superior because it's going to take a lot of the operational aspects of their job out and providing the more richness of learning more about the student, finding out everything that we can for that student so we can provide the best opportunity for that student.
You seemed when you even shifted my focus to the word opportunity, and it's such a that's such a big thing for you, right? You care so much about that. I love it. I love it.
Fairness trigger.
Yeah, yeah, the fairness trigger. Yes, I will remember that. That'll probably be the headline of this podcast.
She's got a fairness trigger.
Fairness, get a fairness trigger. I love it. I love it. This is amazing. And so, just to kind of put a nice blue ribbon on it, are you hopeful for where we as a country are moving in terms of creating that equity, access, and opportunity? Because every year, every 4 years, there's the new administration, or like in this case, new administration. Sometimes a repeat, but we're always talking about reducing unemployment and creating equity and opportunity, and the numbers will just fluctuate up and down. It's up, it's back down. It's up, it's back down. Are you feeling like we as a human race are now moving closer towards that, like finding equitable access to everybody for education, employment, and those other things?
Absolutely. I'm always going to be the optimist here. There's the altruistic side will always come out, especially in times like this, because there is opportunity in everything that we do. AI is going to just supercharge the way that we can address education. It doesn't take a lot of money, but it takes a lot of talent to provide the framework and the blueprint for things that we're discussing. But regardless of partisan politics, there is always going to be a school and there's always going to be children who are going to school. That is a constant. What is a non-negotiable is the way in which we address how we educate our children. There are going to be, politics aside, there's going to be initiatives that will come and they will go, but there will always be children going to school. And I feel very passionate in my belief that educators are there for the right reasons and that they care and they want the best because these are our future generations. And
Yeah.
so we can't stop thinking about what it means to become literate, what it means to become a productive member of society, and what it means to be able to have the earning power to become that productive member of society. And so when we think about policy and procedure, the student the student experience should always be top of mind. And I feel very strongly that it is. We hear a lot of fluff, and I think there's a lot but if we get out of the noise, what's best for students always comes out.
I love it. I love it. And I feel the same way. I'm very hopeful for where we're moving. Yeah, there's ups and downs. There's sometimes topics that we think, oh, we shouldn't be caring about that. Like, why are we discussing
Yeah.
that? But in the end, I feel like, yeah, we're heading more towards that. Even with AI and everything we're doing there, I feel like it's actually creating a whole new segment of jobs, a whole new segment of opportunities that we may not fully understand now,
Yeah.
but it's coming. It'll soon come. Just like, we went from that industrial age of like metal and production lines that were getting automated, and people were like, oh my God, I'm losing my job. I used to build these cars with hand, and now there's a machine doing it. But it
Yeah.
created a whole new set of jobs and automation, and I feel AI is the same way. So I'm with you on that topic. The one thing you mentioned when we were chatting, uh, and you said opportunity is about the mindset. Uh, how do you, first of all, do you think most people have that mindset? And if not, how do you create it? And what's the mindset you're talking about?
That's interesting because that mindset's going to be what's coming from your core. And so outside of the traditional fixed growth mindset is you have an opportunity if you believe you do. You have to believe that you can, that you have the opportunity there. And that goes into the mentors that you're talking about. You will have, there's individuals who will just intrinsically by person be the ones that will go off and be the front runners and the go-getters. And by personality, they may not, or by social disposition, or by life changing events, feeling that the opportunity is not there. But one thing, when I think about the constant students going to school, it's that one educator. If you think about, I go back to Mr. Holt for me, who was the one that really said, you can do this. Let me show you some options. Let me show you another way of thinking about this. So and that comes back to good teaching and learning. If we set up our educators in such a way that they are not they're not anxiety ridden, AI is going to help with that. But the opportunity to allow an educator who is regulated his or herself to make sure that they can impart the opportunity, because that's why we got into the profession to begin with. We care about students and we care about what students can learn. Nobody gets into teaching for the high salaries that they provide. It's definitely a very mission-driven profession. But the mindset's got to be there, and we have to be able to provide the foundation and the structure to give students that opportunity that they can go off. And it's part of the culture and psyche and the fabric of the school set.
I completely resonate with that thought and mindsets. Like my wife and I always talk about this all the time. It's kind of like how people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, and they envisioned the world, right? When Steve Jobs said, "Oh yeah, I think a phone can be without buttons," like, and no, people are going, "What do you mean?" Like, but
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's his mindset. Is no, in my head, it's already done. It's there. He calls it the reality distortion field.
Yes,
Just
yes.
like the fairness thing you
The
said.
fairness trigger, yeah.
Yeah, fairness trigger. Yeah, so it's kind of like sometimes you just have to distort reality in your head and make it feel like it's real, and it starts happening because your body, your mind, your heart starts getting aligned, and now you're moving towards that direction. So I love that. It's very powerful, and I think we'll make that our headline for this podcast is opportunity is about mindset.
Yes. And it's an actualization.
Yeah.
You cannot force it on anyone.
Yeah.
And as a parent of two children, no, you cannot force it on anyone. You have to be able to nurture and guide and support and provide. And when you have that pathway, that safe pathway set up, you can begin to see that happening and resonating. So I do very much agree with what you're sharing.
Well, Shannon, this has been great. I think everything we spoke about, starting with equity, inclusion, your life and your story there, and just tying it all to opportunity and mindset. I love it. This has been great.
Oh, wonderful. It's been just a pleasure just getting to know you and speak with you this morning.
Thank you.
Enjoyable way to start the day.
Well, and for all our listeners, thank you for joining. This is EDU Unlocked with me, Ashish Fernando, and our guest for today, Shannon Penrose from the American College of Education. Thank you all for joining us, and see you all on our next episode with somebody special again. Thank you very much.